There are tombs beneath the ground that should not exist. In Mexico, a 7-ton sarcophagus lid shows a figure with hands on controls, feet on pedals, flames erupting downward. Archaeologists call it a king descending into the underworld. 3 aerospace engineers have called it something else. In Egypt, a royal tomb discovered in 1907 contains a body belonging to no known pharaoh. Every name was chiseled out in antiquity. 117 years later, no one agrees on whose bones they are. In China, a pyramid larger than Giza was photographed by a United States Air Force pilot in 1945. The Chinese government classified the site the same year. No outside archaeologist has entered since. In Ireland, a burial chamber built 5,200 years ago illuminates its inner room for exactly 17 minutes once a year. The precision required modern instruments to measure. These are 8 ancient alien tomb discoveries no one can explain. Let us start with number 1. Pakal, Mexico, 1948. A Mexican archaeologist named Alberto Ruz Luillier is standing inside the Temple of the Inscriptions in Palenque, Chiapas. He notices something in the floor. Stone plugs. Deliberate. Someone filled holes in this room and then covered the evidence. He starts clearing. It takes 4 years. At the bottom of the staircase, 9 meters below the base of the pyramid, he pushes open a sealed door. The air inside is damp and unchanged for more than 1,000 years. The stone sarcophagus occupies most of the room. On top of it, a carved limestone lid, 3.6 meters long, 2.2 meters wide, 7 tons. He raises his torch and looks at what is carved into that stone. A figure reclines at an angle, knees raised, arms bent forward, hands positioned over what appear to be controls. One foot rests on a raised platform that functions as a pedal. From the base of the structure, flames erupt downward. At the figure's face, a tube connects to a device that archaeologists have named the Giver of Life. The official interpretation: this is Pakal the Great, ruler of Palenque for 68 years, descending into Xibalba, the Mayan underworld. The flames are roots of the world tree. The controls are ceremonial jade adornments. The breathing device is a spiritual motif. Mayan scholars Linda Sheely and David Stewart have documented every element of this imagery in other verified Mayan artworks. The rocket interpretation, first proposed by Eric von Däniken in his 1968 book Chariots of the Gods, requires projecting modern categories onto symbols that predate aviation by 13 centuries. That is the honest version of the mainstream case. It deserves to be stated clearly. Here is what it does not explain. The reclining posture, knees raised, back tilted, arms forward, does not appear in any other known Mayan burial artwork. Not once. Every other documented Mayan death posture is seated upright or laid flat. The position on this lid has no parallel in the culture that created it. The lid alone weighs as much as a fully loaded London double-decker bus. It was lowered into this chamber before the pyramid existed above it. No one has explained the logistics of that. That is number 1. Now let us look at number 2. KV-55, Egypt, January 1907. The Valley of the Kings. Archaeologist Edward Ayrton, working for American financier Theodore Davis, breaks through the entrance to a tomb no one knew existed. It is small, undecorated, a single chamber, 1 coffin. For a royal burial in the Valley of the Kings, this is almost insulting. The coffin itself has been attacked, its golden face ripped off in antiquity. Every cartouche bearing the owner's name chiseled out, deliberately, systematically, completely. Inside the coffin, a male skeleton with a highly elongated skull, the kind of skull that appears in every artistic representation of the pharaoh Akhenaten, the kind that also appears in the mummy of his son, Tutankhamun, whose tomb sits less than 100 meters away. The items in the room point in several directions at once. a gilded shrine belonging to Queen Tai, Akhenaten's mother. Canopic jars associated with Kia, one of Akhenaten's wives. Clay bricks inscribed with Akhenaten's own throne name. Objects from at least 3 different people gathered into one room around one unidentified body. In 2010, DNA analysis confirmed the skeleton was the son of Amenhotep III and the father of Tutankhamun. That lineage fits Akhenaten precisely. But the bones tell a different story. The age at death, estimated from skeletal analysis, is approximately 25 years. Historical records place Akhenaten's death in his late 40s. The gap has never been reconciled. The second candidate is Smenkhkare, Akhenaten's co-regent, about whom almost nothing is documented, and whose death is entirely unrecorded. In 2021, a forensic team from the FAPAB Research Center in Sicily produced the first 3-dimensional facial reconstruction from the skull. It does not match any known artistic depiction of Akhenaten. In 2010, Dr. Zahi Hawass, Egypt's former antiquities minister, examined the bones directly for the first time. He later wrote that the skull's condition was so poor, the identity question might never be definitively answered. 117 years after the tomb was opened, that remains the official position. But the detail that no identity theory explains is this. Someone entered this tomb in antiquity and performed what Egyptians called the second death, erasing the name, destroying the face, annihilating the person's existence in the afterlife. They did not simply want the occupant unidentified. They wanted them gone. That is number 2. Now look at number 3. Sanxingdui, China, 1986. Guang'an, Sichuan Province. Workers digging clay for a brickyard break through the floor of a pit. Inside, over 1,000 artifacts: bronze, gold, jade, ivory. The civilization that made them was entirely unknown to archaeology until that morning. The culture is dated to between 1,200 and 1,000 BC, contemporaneous with the Shang dynasty, which flourished 800 kilometers away in the Yellow River Valley. The two cultures share a time period and nothing else. The artistic style of Sanxingdui has no precedent in Chinese history. It has no successor either. It reached a level of bronze-working sophistication that archaeologists described as impossible for its era, and then stopped. No human remains were found in the pits. No written records. No inscriptions anywhere on the site. No evidence of trade, warfare, or communication with any neighboring civilization. They broke everything before they buried it. Every artifact in both pits had been deliberately smashed and burned before deposition. The reason is unknown. It has not been proposed with any confidence by any researcher in the nearly 4 decades since the discovery. The bronze masks are the find that stops people. The largest measures 131 centimeters across. The eyes are not painted. They are not inlaid. They are cast as cylinders of hollow bronze extending 16 centimeters outward from the face, further than the length of an adult hand. This feature appears nowhere else in ancient Chinese art. It appears nowhere else in the ancient world. The mask stares back at you across 3,000 years. The eyes, 16 centimeters of hollow bronze protruding from the face like telescopes, do not look like any human eye. They do not look like any artistic stylization of a human eye. They look, according to the first archaeologist to uncover one, as if they are watching something we cannot see. In 2021, a new excavation at the same site uncovered a gold mask fragment. 280 grams, 84% pure gold, the heaviest and purest gold mask from this period ever found in China. The site is still being excavated. The name Sanxingdui means 3-star mounds. Local legend says the mounds were created when the heavenly emperor cast handfuls of earth from the sky. The civilization vanished around 1000 BC, no conquest. no disaster on record. They simply stopped, destroyed what they had made, buried the pieces, and disappeared. Before we continue, and we are only halfway through the list, you need to understand that what is coming gets progressively less explained the further we go. The last 3 tombs on this list have something the first 3 do not: active, ongoing government suppression. Subscribe now so you do not miss the second half, because this is where the official record ends and the silence begins. Number 4. Newgrange, Ireland. December 21st, 1967. Archaeologist Michael J. O'Kelly is sitting alone inside a 5,000-year-old burial chamber in County Meath, Ireland. It is before sunrise. The chamber is completely dark. He has a theory about a gap in the stone above the entrance, a feature no one had assigned a function to. He wants to test it. At 8:54 Greenwich Mean Time, a beam of light enters through the gap. It travels 19 meters along the passage. It reaches the chamber floor. It illuminates the carved stones on the rear wall. O'Kelly later wrote that the experience was unlike anything in his professional career. He was the first person to witness it since the structure was built. Approximately 5,000 years had passed between the last witness and him. A Newgrange was constructed around 3,200 BC. That makes it 500 years older than Stonehenge and 600 years older than the Great Pyramid of Giza. The mound is 85 meters in diameter and 12 meters high. It contains approximately 200,000 tons of stone and earth. The corbelled roof, stones stacked without mortar, each layer slightly overlapping the last, has remained completely watertight for 5,200 years. The gap O'Kelly identified is called the roof box. It sits 2.5 meters back along the passage above the entrance. It was engineered to admit light on one morning of the year and no other. On the winter solstice, the beam enters at 8:54, travels the full length of the passage, and illuminates the inner chamber for exactly 17 minutes. Then the sun shifts. The light disappears. The chamber returns to darkness for another year. Calculations based on the precession of the Earth's axis confirm that 5,000 years ago, the beam entered at the exact moment of sunrise. The drift visible today is the result of the Earth's axial wobble across 5 millennia. The original builders did not just align the passage to the solstice. They aligned it to the solstice as it was calculated to occur at the moment of construction. More than 50,000 people enter a lottery each year for fewer than 60 places to stand inside the chamber on that morning. We asked at the beginning of this video what these people were burying. At Newgrange, the question becomes what they were tracking. When the answer is the return of the sun, the moment of minimum light, the pivot point between death and rebirth. Which raises the next question immediately. If you understand the cosmos this precisely, if you can calculate the exact angle of sunrise on one specific morning out of 365, 5,000 years before the telescope existed, what else did you know? That is number 4. Now let us look at number 5. The giants of Sardinia. The official explanation for the giants' graves is straightforward. The Newgrange civilization of Sardinia built over 800 megalithic gallery tombs across the island from approximately 2,500 BC onward. They were communal burial chambers, large families or communities interred together over generations. The name Giants' Graves comes from local legend, not from evidence. The chamber interiors measure 1 to 2 meters high. That is consistent with human-sized occupants. No verified giant skeletal remains have ever been scientifically documented at any of these sites. That is the honest, mainstream position. It deserves to be stated clearly because it accounts for most of what is found here. Here is what it does not account for. The entrance slab, the central stele, reaches 4 meters in height. E.b. the semicircular exedra of standing stones framing the entrance spans 17 meters across. The full outer corridor stretches up to 30 meters in length. These are the exterior dimensions of a structure whose interior ceiling stands at 1 to 2 meters. The functional question the official explanation has never answered is this: why do the external dimensions of these tombs exceed, by such a significant margin, any occupant they have ever been proven to contain? A chamber 1 to 2 meters high serves the dead. A 4-meter entrance serves something else. Architecture communicates. Every culture that has ever built a monumental entrance has done so because the entrance was meant to impress something or accommodate something beyond the ordinary. 2 kilometers from one of the largest giant's tomb necropolises on the island, workers discovered a series of limestone statues in the 1970s. They are now known as the Giants of Monte Prama, dated to approximately 900 BC, reassembled to heights of up to 2.1 meters. They are among the oldest life-size stone statues in the entire Mediterranean world. Archaeologists have noted that their proportions do not reflect the average dimensions of Nuragic people. The tombs were built for someone. The statues were built to resemble someone. The legend says the bones of that someone disappeared. That is number 5. Now let us look at number 6. The White Pyramid, China, spring 1945. United States Army Air Corps pilot James Gaussman is flying a mission between China and Assam, India, when something below him catches the light. He later wrote, "It was pure white on all sides." The capstone was a huge piece of jewel-like material that could have been crystal. We were struck by the immensity of the thing. His photographs were delivered to United States government officials. The report was filed. The world was not told. 2 years later, Colonel Maurice Shahan, Far Eastern Director for Trans World Airlines, saw the same structure from the air. This time the account reached the public. The New York Times ran his report on March 28, 1947. Readers across the world learned that a pyramid larger than anything in Egypt was sitting in central China, visible from altitude, capped with something that caught sunlight like a gem. Then the Chinese government classified the area. Western archaeologists have not been permitted independent excavation of the Shanxi Pyramid complex since. There are approximately 40 known pyramid mounds near Xi'an, mausoleums of Han Dynasty emperors, earthen structures softened by centuries of vegetation. The largest is the Maoling Mausoleum of Emperor Wu of Han. Construction begun in 139 BC. It is the most commonly proposed candidate for Gaussman's sighting. Its dimensions do not match his description. In the 1990s, German researcher Hartwig Hausdorff conducted aerial photography of the region specifically to locate the structure Gaussman photographed. He never found it. The Chinese government's stated reason for leaving these sites unopened is preservation. They cite the damage done to Tutankhamun's tomb by the rushed excavation of the 1920s as evidence that premature opening destroys more than it reveals. That position is not unreasonable. Archaeology has learned hard lessons from exactly that kind of urgency. What makes it complicated is this. Remote sensing surveys of the nearby mausoleum of the first emperor, Qin Shi Huang, builder of the Terracotta Army, have confirmed the existence of vast underground structures. Ancient texts describe mercury-filled rivers running through the burial complex. The tomb has never been opened. The mercury readings taken from the soil above it are anomalously high. They built it. They sealed it. They classified it. On the question from the beginning of this video, what were they burying? Here has a specific, uncomfortable answer. They buried something valuable enough to keep secret for 80 years. And counting. That is number 6. Now let us look at number 7. Hayu Marca, Peru, September 1996. A mountaineering guide named Jose Luis Delgado Mamani is walking a trail he has walked before in the Hayu Marca mountain region, 35 kilometers from the city of Puno in southern Peru. He turns a corner. Cut into the rock face in front of him is a door, 7 meters high, 7 meters wide, carved from a single rock face with no seam, no join, no separate pieces. At its base, a T-shaped alcove just under 2 meters high, precisely the height of a standing adult. In the right interior wall of that alcove, a circular depression in the stone, hand-sized, deliberate. Its diameter and depth are specific enough that archaeologists have documented it as a measurable physical feature rather than a natural formation. The structure is pre-Inca. It predates the Inca civilization entirely, though the Inca are known to have incorporated the site into their ritual practice. No door mechanism has ever been found. The rock behind the alcove is solid throughout. Whether it was ever intended to function as a literal door is contested. What is not contested is the circular depression. It exists. It has precise dimensions, and those dimensions correspond exactly to a description recorded 400 years before Mamani found the site. Spanish colonizers documented the local Aymara legend in the 16th century. It describes a priest named Aramu Maru fleeing the conquest with the golden solar disk from the Coricancha temple in Cusco, the most sacred object in the Inca Empire. He carried it 450 kilometers to these mountains. He found a doorway guarded by priests. He placed the disk into a depression in the stone. A blue light appeared inside the rock. He walked through the opening and was never seen again. The legend does not describe a door. It describes a keyhole. The keyhole exists. The site sits on a grid alignment shared with 5 other Andean archaeological sites. The grid lines intersect at Lake Titicaca. Mamani later said he had dreamed of the structure for years before he found it. He had described it to colleagues. They dismissed it. Then one morning in September 1996, he turned a corner on a trail he had walked before, and it was simply there, exactly as he had described it. That is number 7. Now the last one. Number 8. Tallos Cave, Ecuador. The Cueva de los Tallos, the Cave of the Oilbirds, sits in the Morona Santiago province of southeastern Ecuador, in the foothills where the Andes meet the Amazon rainforest. The only way in is a vertical shaft 65 meters deep. The cave system below extends for over 5 kilometers. Some of its chambers are as large as 2 football fields. The Shuar people have used it for centuries. They descend each spring on vine ladders to collect fledgling oil birds from the walls. For the Shuar, the cave is a place of ceremony, a place of spirits, a place that belongs to them. In the 1960s, a Hungarian-Argentinian explorer named Juan Morich claimed to have found something else inside it. A library. Gold plates engraved with a script belonging to no known civilization, which he believed had been left by a pre-human culture of non-terrestrial origin. Erich von Däniken publicized the claim in his 1973 book, Gold of the Gods. The story reached the world. In 1976, Scottish engineer Stan Hall decided to find out whether it was true. He assembled one of the largest cave expeditions in history, over 100 people, Ecuadorian and British military, geologists, biologists, professional cavers, a film crew, and serving as honorary president of the expedition, Neil Armstrong, the first human being to walk on the moon. Think about what that means. The first man to walk on the moon, having already visited the most remote location any human being has ever reached, voluntarily descended into a cave in the Ecuadorian jungle looking for a library no one had proven existed. Neil Armstrong was not a credulous man. He was an engineer, a pilot, a scientist. He read the evidence. He went. The evidence was enough for him. The expedition mapped 5 kilometers of previously uncharted passages. They found burial sites with ceramic artifacts and shell objects dating to approximately 1500 BC. They found a section of cave wall, now called the Morich Portal, with surfaces so smooth and so precisely angled that the team noted they did not appear natural. they did not find the library. After the expedition, the Shuar guides told Hall that the team had been taken to the wrong part of the cave. The true location, they said, was known only to a small number of Shuar elders. Hall spent the rest of his life attempting to organize a second expedition. A man who claimed to know the exact location of the library was murdered before he could pass that information on. Hall died in 2008. The second expedition was never completed. In 2018, the cave was revisited by explorer Josh Gates for the television series Expedition Unknown. He descended with Shuar guides and Eileen Hall, Stan Hall's daughter, who had continued her father's work for a decade. They found the cave unchanged. They did not find the library. No subsequent expedition has located the metal library. No explorer has independently confirmed Morich's account. And the Shuar, the only people who know whether the library is real, have chosen not to say. They are still the guardians of the cave. They still decide who enters. And the one man who claimed to know the exact location went to his grave in silence. We started this video with one question. When a culture builds a monumental burial chamber and places inside it something unlike anything else in their culture, what were they burying? The answer is not aliens. The answer is uncertainty. In Palanque, a king who looked like a pilot. In KV-55, someone whose name they were terrified of. In Sanxingdui, everything they owned in a ritual no one has decoded. In Newgrange, the moment of minimum sunlight, precisely, with a machine of stone. In Sardinia, individuals in chambers too large for the individuals found inside them. In China, something under a pyramid classified for 80 years. In Peru, the door to another world behind a legend. In Ecuador, a library that one side says never existed and another says is still waiting. 8 tombs. One consistent fact. In every case, the something was considered important enough to protect. With stone, with silence, or with a 400-year-old story about a disappearing priest. Of the 8, which do you think is the strongest evidence? Write it in the comments. I read them. And in the next video, I will address the most interesting argument. We will reach those locations next time. Subscribe and press the bell. Because when you see the map, you will understand why governments have been redrawing it for 200 years.